Ian Fee is the author of Wild Ride to Sobriety, a transformation from drunken oblivion to profound clarity. And his journey, as the title points out, is from alcoholism to sobriety. It's his memoir. And Ian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You learned first to drink from your parents, and they were real fun party folks. And one of the pictures that you have in your book is your dad giving you a sip of beer while you were in a stroller. So you really started young.
Well, yes, I started at the age of 1. And I probably started a little bit maybe before that because, I was born in New Westminster, Canada, and then flopped over to the States shortly after that. But we all remember as kids that, your parents would put whiskey on your gums if you were teething. It was just always around me. But yeah, my first sip of beer was at the age of 1, and it never looked back.
And then you continued through your childhood with lots of party fun. That was my experience with life as well. I mean, it, you know, all of my, probably all of your parents' friends drank. So
All
every time everybody got together, it was a wild drink fest. And I'm sure there are a few of those people who ended up in alcohol treatment. Not everybody can survive a party level like that with drink.
Yeah, obviously starting at the age of 1. At 13, I was working in a local bar by my house in the Salton Sea down in California. So I was technically just supposed to be a dishwasher, but it's the hey, go pour Jimmy a Coors Light or a Pabst. And at 13, that was the norm for me. And then I realized my parents always had these potluck parties, and it was always booze was centered around somebody. The Joneses would bring the beans and the half-gallon of vodka. The Smiths would bring the Jim Beam and the charcuterie board. And I learned, wow, if I could just dress up a little bit, look kind of nice, walk around, and make sure everybody has a drink. I became a server really for my parents' bartenders. But I remember, Jenny would have vodka soda with 2 limes, and Jim over here loved Jim Beam and Diet Coke. Like I still remember all these names 40 years later and what they would drink. And they thought it was cute, and they would tip me. And, I made some good extra money doing it. I really didn't drink a whole lot in my teens and high school. But man, and as soon as I left home and went to San Diego for school, it was I realized booze was my superpower.
Well, it's interesting because when I was reading the book and the jobs you jumped around, in sort of trying over time, trying to get away with what seemed like a geographical job cure. So we often talk about people who drink as taking a geographical tour. It must be Toronto that's making me drink, so I'll move to well, in your case, it must be Los Angeles that's making me drink. So I'll move to Las Vegas, which is not the place to go. Just saying that might not have been the best decision. But so you hopped around a little bit, sort of looking in a way, looking for the job where you didn't have to drink, but at the same time, you were learning the culture of you finish work, you go out for drinks.
For
And that's
sure.
just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think it's in any industry really now that I look back. I got into the hotel business, very customer service, but that was hey, we got off work, let's go to the bar, and then the bar turned into why don't we keep this party going and go to somebody's house and rinse and repeat. And then as I moved up in my career, I used it socially with my clients. Hey, let's go have martini lunches. And martini lunches would then turn into, well, let's go to the strip club or the casino. And then we'll come back to my house and we'll hammer out another couple bottles of wine. And I got them out of their work environment thinking booze was the pivotal moment of my success. And again, I believe for 34 years, booze was my superpower. Man, if I could get people out and about and drinking, I could close business.
So here's a question. When you went out with people after work, whether it was coworkers or business prospects, when you stayed out drinking, did everybody stay with you till the end, or did you find that people were, hey, I've had a drink or I've had two drinks, I'm going home? Even maybe your business prospect leaves, but you stay at the bar.
Yeah, I was kind of the energy and the life of the party and the leader. Very few people left. Um, I'm not sure why. Maybe they just love the energy and the vibe because I run pretty high energy, um, and was the life of the party. Very few people left. It just wasn't. You'd probably have a few stragglers. The wives would be like, "Hey, it's we got kids at home. We got a babysitter till 10." There would be some of those. And I was never a lone drinker. If there wasn't people, I didn't drink.
Uh-huh. That first, you were probably selecting friends who drink because that's kind of normal. But that there's that also after geographical cure, that old adage, if I never drink alone, I can't have an alcohol problem because alcoholics drink alone. I don't drink alone. Therefore, I'm not an alcoholic.
Yeah, I never saw I had a problem.
Uh, but eventually it did wreak havoc with your family life. And you have a couple of kids. Are they, I believe, two kids? Are they from your first marriage?
Yes, I got two failed marriages and three amazing kids.
Well, I mean, that's pretty good, I guess. Right?
That's
The
right.
do you think alcohol is what came between you and your wife and your family?
For sure. 1,000%. I can own all that and look in the mirror and forgive myself, but be accountable for booze was the pivotal of two failed marriages for sure.
You you used an interesting way to communicate with your kids about a lot of parents who drink have a guilt for being not being there for their kids, and you asked your kids to write letters, to effectively letters to you about what their childhood was like and what it was specifically like with you, and they were very emotional and heartwarming letters that you received. And how did that help you in your recovery?
I think in recovery, once you start getting a clear head in your thoughts and realize, I didn't realize how much I was numbing, and to sit in your dirty diaper with your feelings and emotions and actually have to address them. Um, for my kids, writing a book was very therapeutic for me. It was amazing. I journal to this day from that process. And with my kids writing letters, one, I wanted it to be very realistic and touch people's hearts of the impact of booze. And I'm a big believer things are caught, not taught. And my kids caught a lot of really, really bad habits from me. Um, Today, they're catching a lot of really, really good habits. But these letters was I wanted to be the house where all the kids came. I wanted to make sure that everybody was around. I kind of wanted to control the environment, especially in high school, college with kids drinking. Well, I was the problem because on a Wednesday, my son's 2 years older than my daughter. He'll be 30 this year. And they were the high school. I was the party house. So on a Wednesday, the kids would come over after practice. We would have some excuse of something would be on TV, but I would barbecue and drink beers. And then 8, 9 o'clock would roll around. Let's do some fireball shots. Meanwhile, my youngest is upstairs trying to study because she's very intelligent, very good at school. Um, would text me, be like, "Hey, could you turn the music down a little bit? I'm trying to study." To where, I was think I'm this great parent because all the kids are here. I'm here, so I'm technically present. And that word present to me has a whole new meaning today. Just because you're physically there doesn't mean you're present. And I thought because I was physically there, hey, I'm a good parent. Kids are all around. They're safe. We're good. Um, and then my son, who uh, drinks today, my daughter does not drink today. My son does not nearly drink as much. He'll have a couple beers on a golf course or with buddies. He's very, uh, he manages it unbelievably well. Even though he's in, it's probably helped watching his dad be a drunk buffoon for a long time. My daughter, on the other hand, is like, I am going to go the opposite and not drink because I can see the damage that it could create for me and my family now. So they caught both sides of their dad. Um, the drunken oblivion, thinking he's present, to where I've lost 80 pounds, I'm healthy, fit, longevity, and family are like the most important thing to me today. And they're catching all those good habits, almost being 8 years sober here in a few days.
One could argue that having two beers on the golf course is very responsible drinking. That's what regular people do who are not
For sure.
struggling with an alcohol problem. And certainly not unusual to lose 80 pounds or so when you stop drinking, because you just get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially if you drink beer. Uh,
Well, then
so
I would go smash some cheeseburgers or pizzas at midnight, 1 o'clock, and inhale another 2,000 calories. So it was not the
right,
healthiest lifestyle in the world.
right. In 2016, you sold the company you had at the time, and it was a very successful sale. You made a good amount of money, and so you celebrated by going to Las Vegas on a major bender. And I think that was you sort of your last experience with that type of alcohol, uh, alcoholic drinking, and you made a decision to go into treatment. And in your book, it says a year later, you decided it was time to get sober. And this is a quote: celebrate life without a buzz.
Well, I was staring my second failed marriage in the face. Sold my company, nice house, nice cars. You know, you think people on the outside look in, uh, and everything looks great, but I was lost, empty, and bankrupt on the inside. And I had that feeling of like it's over. I sold my company, I built this cool thing, and now it's over. So I had super bad depression, which, as you know, alcohol does not help that.
No.
I was just drowning my emotions, and I was so lost and lonely that was like the rock bottom. And everybody's like, "Hey, where was your rock bottom?" I didn't really have a rock bottom. I stacked so many rock bottoms. I thought I'm like, I don't have rock bottoms. What are you guys talking about? Well, I just stacked them over my years of drinking. I didn't. I'm very lucky and blessed that something catastrophic didn't happen. Not that two failed marriages aren't catastrophic, but I didn't kill anybody. I didn't kill myself. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't have one of those aha moments. I just stacked all my little ones. And in 2016, after selling my company, you know, I got everybody's nudging me a little bit. Hey, you know, you might slow down a little, or you know, wife's like, you got to slow down. You know, this lifestyle is just not sustainable. So I was stacking all these red flags, and then slowly in 2017, got nudged into a rehab. It's kind of like, hey, you're going to do this or else. So I was like, fine, I'll go into rehab. I can do this. And I didn't drink that whole summer prior to. And then in September 2017, went on a business trip to New York, watched the Buffalo Bills game, had some drinks, came back, the wheels came off. And then on October, I was in rehab for 10 days, which is very intense. Um, so I got nudged into rehab, and I went into rehab going, okay, I'm going to go save my marriage. I'm going to do this for my kids. I'm going to do this for my business. I'm going to do this for everybody else but me. And I'll prove to them, right? That was my
Yeah.
mentality going in. And something happened, Janice, on that third day. The good Lord touched me on the shoulder. Something happened. And somebody just shook me and said, hey, unless you're right, nothing's going to be right. You need to get your shit together and get you right before anything else will ever be right in life. And that just kind of like hit me in the face of like, wow, that's right. I have been the leader of these booze groups and these parties, and I could get people together in a text and have 26 people at my house in 10 minutes. And I was this leader, but I wasn't using my leadership in the best way possible. I was using it for all the wrong reasons because I have the ability to get these people together. I have this vibe. I got this jam that I can just bring this energy to people. And I've learned to shift that without alcohol. And rehab really knocked me in the teeth because it was very intense rehab where they do aversion therapy. Uh, Unlike a AA 12-step program, a lot of talking. They actually induce vomiting and swish booze around in your mouth, and it was horrific. To this day, I can still go sit in bars. I can still go do all the same things I did minus alcohol. I'll get a whiff of something, some bartender coming by with a shot of Fireball or some tequila. My mouth will water to this day. My aversion's still that high 8 years later, which is
Well,
awesome.
to go back to the rock bottom, because I want people to be clear that everybody's bottom is their bottom. You don't have to be lying in the gutter. You don't have to be, comatose or incoherent all the time. Your bottom is your bottom, and you make the decision when alcohol's become, kind of untenable in your life. You don't want to do it anymore, and that's your bottom. So you stacked them. So yes, you can have several bottoms till you get to the one that is really the bottom, like you're done. And in the book, so you did go to aversion therapy, and that's what you believe 100% in aversion therapy, as you just said. But you do talk about AA, and you talk about using the 12 steps to get sober.
For sure. And I think the biggest thing is the community and your circle. I talk a lot about you got to get in a good circle. And I have so many people, with social media in the book that are so sober curious. I think there's a big movement, and we can see it shifting, across all countries of this movement. And the community is so important. I have one of my son's friends that is like, I think he's almost there. And he asked me, he goes, what's the biggest thing I could do, Ian? And I go, I'll tell you what your problem is. It's your circle. And it's going to be super, super uncomfortable for you to get out of that circle, because you go to work, you work hard, you go home, you drink beer, smoke weed with your buddies, and you rinse and repeat. And then on Saturday, you think you're taking a break. You go golf with those same guys, drink and smoke until you're blue in the face. And then you recover on Sunday with some Bloody Marys and watch football and smoke and rinse and repeat. You got to get out of that circle of friends, and it's going to be very, very difficult. Choose your heart. It's hard to stay where you're at. It's going to be hard to find a new circle. And that community, and we'll circle back to AA, they have such a good community. And if it's not AA, or if it is a piece of AA, also look at your circle. Look at your circle of friends. I got a funny story. There, a couple weekends ago, I'm sitting at a place having brunch, and these four girls roll in, probably in their 40s, and they're there for their champagne brunch. And one of the girls is like, I'm not drinking. And these three girls were like, oh, the peer pressure that they put on this woman, she ended up drinking, but her circle pushed her to drink when she's like, no, I'm good, I'm taking a break. And they're like, oh, it's just one, James won't know. Like, they just had this whole push to like, we're gonna get her to drink. And they did. And this poor woman, I just watched the whole thing unravel in front of me, and you could see the disappointment when she left, like how disappointed she was in herself, even though she was there to please her friends and have a couple glasses of champagne. When she left, you could just see the disappointment on her face of the peer pressure that just let her crumble. Her circle is her problem. If she's really going to try to get out of that environment, you can love those girls and have fun, but hey, maybe not go to a champagne brunch. I'll go have coffee with you. It doesn't mean you don't stop loving those people, but sometimes relationships have seasons, and she's clearly needs to outgrow, it's okay to outgrow that relationship.
There's a couple of things there. One thing is, it's not the 10th drink that gets you drunk. It's the first drink that gets you drunk. Because once you go down that, like you said, down that rabbit hole, but it also goes to the point where you believe that if you you're not drinking, your friends continue to drink, then you're not drinking, you're boring and you'll lose all of your friends. And you and I have probably both experienced this, where I'll go to a party and it's great up until the point where people start to really get, loaded, and all of a sudden nobody's talking to me and nobody wants me around. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I just leave. I had a good time. I don't want to be around really drunk people. But it's really hard to think that you're losing all of your friends. But what it allows you to do, like you said, is to develop a new circle of friends. Hopefully your friends say, hey, you know what, Ian, I got it now. You're not going to drink, but we're still going to invite you to parties because you're still our friend and we really want to see you. But you develop that circle of friends that are, or work people that are, maybe they're not total non-drinkers. In a lot of cases they would be, but maybe they're the person who has, a glass of wine on a Friday night. And they can be part of your circle because their life is a sober life. They don't think of their life as alcohol, and their life is a sober life. And it's interesting too, because the circle. So talk to me a little bit about therapy, because you had a couple of approaches to therapy that I believe you're still working today. And that was the route that you started, and has been what support from your family now as a sober person, but the therapy that you've undertaken, which is personal and professional.
Yeah, so I got a couple. I have a life coach, Angie, that lives in Florida. We talk every Wednesday. She's been around for 3 years, and she just helps all aspects of my life, from business, personal, kids. It's just a great sounding board. We can laugh together, we can cry together. It's a safe place. And again, she is part of that community of support to keep me on track of my goals and my ambitions and my drive. And then I also do what they call NET, neurological therapy, which is really addressing all my childhood issues. Like, if I'm in my 50s, and it'd be like, what do you mean this is coming from my 9-year-old self? To really identify, I do really, really want to grow and understand and build a better future for yourself. You have to address and your baggage. Like, I didn't realize how much stuff I had at the age of 9 through 12 to 15 years old that I carried today, that I didn't even realize it, of abandonment when we left Canada and we moved to Southern California and my brothers were left behind, how that really emotionally impacted me. I went from the youngest brother to being kind of like an only child, which
Wow.
I really didn't, that's no big deal, right? That's just life. But that abandonment, and the relationships that I have with my brothers because of that, people don't think about that. That then, especially males, we just hold all our feelings and emotions inside. We just keep pushing them down, put it over here, push it here. And I tell you, when I go to this NET therapy, and I do it in Arizona, I fly down and go see my guy down there, I feel like $1,000,000. Like, when I leave there, my energy level, my release, I literally feel my body. I get goosebumps talking about it. I feel the energy release in my body of the issues that I've been carrying as a childhood. And it is insane. And I tell anybody that's listening to this, if you're not in some sort of therapy to be better, try it.